Hello everybody, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening depending on where you are in this amazing world. My name is Donovan Jolly, and welcome everybody once again for another amazing video of DIY investing. For today's video, we're going to be talking deeply about what we need to see moving forward from the US dollar index. Is this the point where we finally see a reversal and the dollar starts to go down? Or is this the point where we're actually going to see the dollar continue going up like it has? There is a major decision that needs to be had, one that will ultimately impact where the direction of crypto is headed. I'm going to give you guys my exact charts that I think are the most important you guys should be watching for, and summarize it by what I think is actually going to be taking place moving forward from here. If you're new and just find this channel, always remember to do me a favor by leaving a like, comment, and subscribing to this channel for more updates. Always remember to click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these amazing videos like the one provided for you here. And make sure you guys sign up to join the Discord server of over 21,000 members are growing. Links are in the description for you guys to go ahead and sign up. You guys can also go ahead and download my free ebook, Beginner's Guide to Crypto. Links are in the description for that. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, so we're going to get into things right off the bat. We're going to be starting off with talking a little bit about the short time frames with Bitcoin, and then really just analyzing why it's important and what it matters with the dollar. Now, let's talk about the shorter time frames, go into the 4-hour time frame. And let's really just talk about what's happened over the last couple hours. Now, basically, ever since the markets opened for the stocks this morning, we've seen everything immediately pull back, Bitcoin being one of those things. Now, this isn't ultimately too surprising because this is kind of what you'd expect during the initial breakout point, and especially if this even is a true breakout, because we don't have confirmation of that either. This could be another one of those attempts that, similar like we've had all throughout this period, where every time we make an attempt to break out, we get stuffed. Now, the difference between this one and all of the other previous times is the fact that this one actually got way past all of our resistance levels. So really, this is actually breaking out of resistance, and this correction is us falling back onto support, right? Because if we look right here, let's come and draw a line. Let's look at this green line for an example, and let's actually make this red so you guys can understand that this is resistance. Every time we hit this level, we fell. We had this short-term bounce above, but we reacted to this level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, at least 10 different times if we're counting all of the wicks in here. We reacted to this level a number of times, and each time we produced a rejection that took us lower. And, before we were actually just ping-ponging in between this support and resistance channel. And so this is where the difference actually comes in. This move took us past our resistance level, the one that we had been below for so long. And now this is a correction that's taking us more onto support of this level. Now keep in mind, we are below this red line. But when we're looking at this, I don't look at this as one specific line. And I think that that's a thing that most younger people, when they're beginning trading and investing, when they're learning technical analysis, that's just one of the things that they do, is they oftentimes try and draw one line. Even though price may have reacted that one line a number of times, the more times price reacts to a level, the more likely it is that that level is going to fall, even if it's just for the short term. And we can look at a number of different times. Notice how we bounced off of this level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We were never breaking below it throughout this entire period until this move right here. We got this quick capitulation that took us, quite a bit below that level, and that would have been a point where we bounced off of it 5 or 6 times. People would have been thinking in their head, all right, this is a guaranteed level, we're never breaking below it, and then that's right when you see a move below it, even if it's just a short-term move. And we actually saw 2. We saw this one, and then we saw this one, in the same way that we do it up here, right? We've been bouncing off of this resistance 1, 2, 3, 4 different times approximately, if we're counting even into here. And then, of course, if we take out the lows, it's likely that we take out the highs in a similar way because we were pretty much going off of each resistance and support level the same amount of times. And so now we're at this point where we didn't really see a clear breakdown. This was a wick, this was a wick, this was more exhaustion of sellers. This is a strong move by the buyers. And with us correcting back onto support, like I was originally going to say, I look at this as more of a range. I don't look at this as one specific level that we can draw. I look at it as more something along the lines of this, right? And I could honestly see it even peaking a little bit below. Really, my ultimate low where I don't want to see us go below at all, my lowest point of this cycle would be 29,850 approximately. I don't really want to see us go below that, and then if we do actually hit this level, we need to see it be something more quick like that. But this is kind of what I'm watching for in the short term. Really, guys, we're bullish above, bearish below. And so these are going to be the things that I'm personally watching for when it comes to Bitcoin. I look at this as more of a support and resistance flip. Now, obviously, if this just keeps falling and it shows more weakness and we start to see something more of a bigger move coming in the dollar, then that is where we would expect to see Bitcoin actually continue to go lower. What we don't want to see inside of Bitcoin is us fall all the way back down and come to retest our base support that we had been bouncing off of a number of different times. We really don't want to see this become a fake out and us to come all the way back down to this support down here, because that, in my opinion, would show a lot of weakness inside of Bitcoin. What we need to see from Bitcoin is actually a bounce relatively close. You know, we can go a little bit lower than where we're at still, but we need to see a bounce somewhere in this range and then us to actually continue up. My guess would be to at least 34,000, about right here. At least. I would think we'd go a little bit higher than that, most likely upwards of 35 to even 40. I could definitely see us rallying upwards of there, but my first take profit zone for Bitcoin would definitely be 34,000. Then my second one would be really up here about 40,000, you know. Take the majority out right here, set a trailing stop loss if you're in profit, and then I'll be looking to hold the rest up to 40K. That's the most likely way to just trade this based off of technical analysis, support and resistance. You know, there's not a whole lot to look at besides these basic levels that we can spot. And so as long as this support holds, we would expect that 34 would get met. And if we can make a sizable move to the upside, similar to what we saw here, this is a nice, strong impulse to the upside if support holds. If support holds, then I would expect that we could easily see a run up to 40K. And so that's why I think that in the short term, the best thing to do is kind of stick to holding, wait until this resolves. And a lot of this is going to resolve when it comes to what the dollar is ultimately going to do. Now, as you guys know, we've been on this big tear on the downside for the dollar. We've been correcting. We saw some nice bearish divergence that formed on the daily time frames that we're watching, and that actually completed. So that was a nice resolution to a massive move that we had been seeing inside of the dollar. Bitcoin had been going on a big move to the downside for a significant period of time. And what's good is this was also coming at a multi-year resistance. Now, the thing that what we're seeing right now, keep in mind, we did actually break out of all of our resistance. Now, is this just a false breakout and more of a bull trap? Well, that's to be decided, and that's what we're ultimately deciding inside of this move to the upside. Now, what I will say is this was our previous high. It was up here at about just under 104. And then our other high that was set in here, March of 2020, was basically here at about 100, just a little over 103. Now, we actually sold below both of these levels, and so this move to the upside could very easily just be a bearish retest before we continue to go lower. Once again, I'm looking at this as more of a range, not one specific line that we can draw in the sand. And so this is pretty much our range that we're looking at when it comes to the dollar index. We want to see this become resistance. We don't want to ever see us go, you know, holding above and then continuing on up, because if that happens, Bitcoin is just going to have a lower low, and we're going to see a lot of downside inside the crypto markets. There's just no other way to put it besides that. Now, with us having such a massive rejection at this level, and with inflation numbers being so high, I don't see a reason why the dollar breaks out of this level, personally. I see a lot of people telling why they believe it's going to be, a lot of comments on Twitter and stuff saying that they believe that the dollar is going to keep going up. But when we're looking at record inflation, we're looking at Janet Yellen coming out and saying that they were wrong about inflation being transitory, obviously. They're coming out and they're making these big statements that they really were trying to cover up for the last 2.5 years for the most part. And so with them saying all of this stuff, with the dollar at a multi-year resistance, to me, it really just doesn't make sense why it would keep going up, especially with Bitcoin being at such an important level, being down here at this, you know, $30,000 region. We've been watching this level for a while now. You know, we did hold support above it for a long time, and even though the move below it was just a short-term wick, that's almost to be expected in sort of an exhaustion period. When we're coming to support, we would want to see wicks coming in here because that's ultimately showing seller exhaustion, right? If we invert this, this is actually a lot more of a rejection type of consolidation that we're seeing here, right? We had resistance over here, we have resistance throughout here, and then we make this big move up to the same resistance that we had rejected off of a number of times, and we get this big wick, right? Yes, we go below that, we go way below that resistance, and we come all the way down to 25,000, but we actually close way above that. We close cleared back up here near that $30,000 support range. And so that's what we need to pay attention for. Keep in mind that we had more attempts at breaking below this level. This was also a wick. This was also a wick. And now we're actually seeing this green candle coming in here. This is a classic example of a hanging man. Now, whenever you're going to see these type of moves up here, well, these are actually hanging mans, the one that we saw here at the top. I can't remember the exact definition of this candle, but when we see these wicks, it shows exhaustion, right? There's profit taking that is taking place. At this level, every single time we hit it, even though there's short-term exhaustion below this, in my opinion, we really wouldn't have even seen this go quite as low below this level if we didn't have so much enhanced selling because of the Luna collapse. They were dumping 80,000 Bitcoin on the open market to try and save their crypto and their peg of UST, and so that was a lot more enhanced. There was even more people that were freaking out during that period that were also panic selling because of that. So that was a lot of reason to think that, hey, this is more of a capitulation type of event, right? In the same way that we saw at our top of our cycle, Dogecoin really going crazy and Elon Musk going on to Saturday Night Live and shilling Dogecoin at the top. It's those sort of things that are big eye-openers that would point to a capitulation or a blow off top. With Dogecoin and Elon Musk, it was a blow off top. But this is kind of the opposite event. This is more of a fearful event where, oh my gosh, UST is crashing, the whole market's collapsing, there's more fear of this new smallpox or whatever the freaking thing is, the monkeypox thing, I don't know. Anyways, it's all of these reasons where I don't see a reason why this is ultimately going to be breaking bullish. And these are exhaustion candles, and this is the beginning of a new trend. In this case, bullish because I'm on an inverted scale, right? So I believe that this support's going to hold. We're going to get at least a bounce. It's my belief that what we do see of this after the bounce, whether we go to 40K, whether we go to 34K, that doesn't really matter to me. I think it's going to be a choppy period and more of a long-term consolidation until we get closer towards the end of this year. That's just my belief in the matter. We could have a big upswing, but I believe it's going to be a steady uptrend, and there's not going to be a whole lot going on until closer towards the end of the year. Really, our excitement is going to be met during this bounce. This initial bounce to the upside after this massive sell-off, I think it's going to be a pretty profitable time. We'll be able to make some swing trades. NFTs on Solana, in my opinion, will be doing really, really well. And so those are the kind of opportunities I'm personally looking for. Once again, we need to continue to see sell-side pressure from the dollar. We want to see this turn into more resolution to the downside. We want to see a rejection here on the dollar in the short term. With the SPX, I actually drew this the other night before the markets opened, and it's pretty much just done exactly what I drew to. We've had a big sell-off that kind of came in here. I knew that it was looking weak, and we were right at this major resistance. It was just likely that the markets were going to open and sell off. And so on the short term, when it comes to watching the SPX, we once again just really need to see a bounce. I honestly think that we could come back down here a little bit lower. Something along the lines of this, which would be about 4,050. But we do need to see a bounce in here. Once again, as long as we can see the stock market continue to go up, that's going to point to the dollar further showing weakness. And then if the stocks are going up, I think a lot of confidence is going to be in a crypto, because at the end of the day, as much as we may not want it to, Bitcoin is really correlated to the equity markets. And so if that's the way that it's going to be, then ultimately Bitcoin's usually just going to resolve to whatever the stock market's going to do. And that's been the case for a significant period of time. Now keep in mind that whenever the stock market broke all-time highs, Bitcoin did lose its parity, but that was a point where there was already confidence inside of the stock market. The stock market's below all-time highs. I don't think that we're going to see a lot of confidence inside of Bitcoin as long as the stock market's below those all-time highs, unless some unforeseen event changes the idea and the perception of the open market where everybody rushes to Bitcoin as a hedge, which ultimately up to this point has just not been the case. Bitcoin's not correlated to gold, which has been more of a kind of a safe haven towards inflation and whatnot, more of a store of value, so to speak. And with Bitcoin, it's not been correlated to gold. It's been more anti-correlated to gold. And once again, it's way more correlated to the stock market. And so when the stock market, after March of 2020, when we had our COVID crash, once the actual stock market got to this point here and was breaking all-time highs and got to this point, Bitcoin was on its massive tear throughout, right? And then Bitcoin kind of sunk back up here with the SPX around this point. It was actually during this original sell-off that Bitcoin started sinking back up with the SPX. And so now that we're in this correction in not only the SPX but inside of Bitcoin, I actually think that Bitcoin's not really going to figure out its bottom until this market bottoms as well. But I do see the potential that we could be in for somewhat of a bottom. If this isn't a bottom, it'd be looking like this. This would be our wave 1. This would be our wave 3. And then we'd still be getting a wave 5 back down. Most likely this would take us back to probably the previous highs set in here. Let me see what level or what that is. Be about 35,079. That's where I think that we would find our low that would get stitched in here. Ultimately, this would be only a wave 4 correction, and we would need one more impulse to the downside. It could stop a little bit earlier than that, but for the most part, once again, we're watching a rough zone. I would say anywhere between about 35.80 and 36.6. That's where I would be watching for the SPX. But there's equally as much opportunity for us to bottom right here. I also see the opportunity that this was just, we've already completed our 5 impulse waves down, and this is our bottom. The thing is we're just at this big resistance level. So we need to break above this resistance. This is pretty much our key resistance if we go to a weekly time frame. Let's remove our drawing tools right here before we wrap this up. We're basically right below this resistance level. So this is either going to be a lower high and a lower low, or we're going to maintain support, break above this, and then that's going to be the reversal point. I really see the potential of either, but we really need to see us break above this resistance right here in order to do so. So anyways, guys, this is what I'm watching for with Bitcoin. This is what I'm watching for with the SPX. This is what I'm watching for with the dollar. These are the most important charts that I think we need to be watching for. Regardless, I think that Bitcoin is going to be bottoming in this period. It makes more sense to me from an economic perspective when we look at how the things are shaping up in the dollar and the economy, midterm elections coming up. I expect volatility. I expect not necessarily strength in the dollar, which will be short-term strength in Bitcoin and the equities, most likely a choppy period through the rest of this year until we wrap up all of this stuff. And then as we get into next year, I think that that's going to be a point where we actually see the market start going up again. Regardless, now is the opportunity to be looking into long-term holds, be looking into short-term opportunities with the swing high that I think that we're going to see inside of Bitcoin in the short term. But anyways, guys, if you have value in this video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these basic videos. If you guys liked what you see, you guys want to join the Discord server, download my free ebook. Links are in the description for that. If you guys would also like to sign up for my VIP, where I post trades, signals, NFT picks, all of that fun stuff, links are going to be provided for you in the description. Go ahead and find it on my website. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. As always, peace out.